energies, meaning many energies. And these energies are manifested in manifold forms. With such energies, you have also created the cosmic manifestation. And although you maintain it as if it were permanent, you ultimately annihilate it. Although you are never disturbed by such changes and alterations, the living entities are disturbed by them, and therefore they find the cosmic manifestation to be different or separated from you. My Lord, you are always independent, and I can clearly see this fact. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is clearly explained that Lord Krishna has multi-energies, which can be grouped into three, namely the external energy, the internal energy, and the marginal energy. There are also different cosmic manifestations, namely the spiritual world and the material world, as well as different types of living entities. Some living entities are conditioned and others are eternally free. The eternally free living entities are called Nitya Mukta, for they never come in contact with the material energy. However, some living entities are conditioned in this material world, and thus they think themselves separated from the Supreme Lord. Due to their contact, I'm sorry, due to their contact with the material energy, their existence is always troublesome. Being always in distress, the conditioned soul considers the material energy to be very much disturbing. This fact is explained by a Vaishnava Kavi or poet. Krishna Buli se Jiva Anadi Bahirmukha Ateva Mayatare Deha Samsara Dukkha. When the living entity forgets the Supreme Lord and wants to enjoy himself independently, imitating the Supreme Lord, he is captured by the false notion that he is the enjoyer and is separated from the Supreme Lord. This material energy is therefore very much troublesome to the spiritual energy, and living the spiritual energy, the living entity, but the material energy is never troublesome. So, I'm sorry, but the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. Indeed, for the Supreme Lord, both material and spiritual energy are the same. In this verse, Lord Shiva explains that the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always independent, but because the living entities are not independent, due to their false idea of becoming independently happy, the material energy is troublesome. Consequently, the material energy creates differentiation. Because the Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this, they want to be relieved from the material energy. However, because a Vaishnava philosopher is in full knowledge of the Supreme Personality Godhead, he finds no disturbance even in the material energy. This is because he knows how to utilize the material energy for the service of the Lord. In the government, the criminal department and the civil department may appear different in the eyes of the citizens, but in the eyes of the government, both departments are one and the same. The criminal department is troublesome for the criminal but not for the obedient citizen. Similarly, this material energy is troublesome for the conditioned soul, but it has nothing to do with the liberated souls who are engaged in the service of the Lord. Through the liberated souls who are engaged, through the Purusha Avatara, Mahavishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, created the whole cosmic manifestation simply by breathing out all the universes. The Lord creates and maintains the cosmic manifestation as Lord Vishnu. Then, as Sankarsana, he annihilates the cosmic manifestation. Yet, despite the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the cosmos, the Lord is not affected. The various activities of the Lord must be very disturbing to the tiny living entities. But since the Lord is supremely great, he is never affected. Lord Shiva or any other pure devotee can see this clearly without being blinded by beta buddhi or differentiation. For a devotee, the Lord is the supreme spirit soul. Since he is supremely powerful, his various powers are also spiritual. For a devotee, there is nothing material, for the material existence only means forgetfulness of the supreme personality of Godhead. Well, that's a very profound statement. Uh, this forgetfulness of Krishna and becoming enamored or bewildered by the material existence, that type of forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord confuses people. But someone who is always practicing Krishna consciousness and has come to the level of love and devotion for Krishna is never confused and never, let's say, uh, bewildered. They know exactly, such devotees know exactly what to do and how to do it, and never are uh, confused about engaging in devotional service. Therefore, it says, for a devotee, the Lord is the supreme spirit soul. Since he is supremely powerful, his various powers are also spiritual. For a devotee, there is nothing material. For material existence only means forgetfulness of the supreme personality of Godhead. Yeah, that's a wonderful statement that everything in the material world is actually spiritual. It only becomes, or it only seems to be material when we forget our relationship with Krishna. And this verse that is uh, uh, in this verse that's given in this purport, Krishna Buli se jiva anadi bahirmukha ateva maya tarideya samsara dukkha. When the living entity forgets the Supreme Lord and wants to enjoy himself independently, imitating the Supreme Lord, he is captured by the false notion that he is the enjoyer and is separated from the Supreme Lord. This material energy is therefore very much troublesome to the spiritual energy, the living entity. But the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. Indeed, for the Supreme Lord, both material and spiritual energy are the same. Yeah, because both are used in the service of Krishna. In this verse, Lord Shiva explains that the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always independent, but because the living entities are not independent, due to their false idea of becoming independently happy. Okay, so that's the real problem. Their false idea of becoming independently happy. The material energy is troublesome. Consequently, the material energy creates differentiation. Okay, uh, this is real philosophy. And Krishna uh, and Prabhupada is able to explain all these fine points so that we are not confused. Therefore, it says, for a devotee, the Lord is the supreme spirit soul. Since he is supremely powerful, his various powers are also spiritual. For a devotee, there is nothing material. For material existence only means forgetfulness of the supreme personality of Godhead. Yeah, that's a fact. For a devotee, everything is spiritual and should be used only in the service of Krishna. And material existence is only, it means only forgetfulness of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Once we are always cognizant of the Supreme Personality Godhead, everything is spiritual. And it's a fact that everything is spiritual. Everything is coming from the energy of Krishna. The Mayavadi doesn't understand that. The devotee does. And therefore, this verse is, uh, uh, is given. Krishna Buli Se Jiva Nadi Bahir Mukha Ateva Maya Tare Deya Samsara Dukam. When the living entity forgets the Supreme Lord and wants to enjoy himself independently, imitating the Supreme Lord, he is captured by the false notion that he is the enjoyer and is separated from the Supreme Lord. This material energy is therefore very much troublesome to the spiritual energy, the living entity. But the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. Indeed, for the Supreme Lord, both material and spiritual energy are the same. So we should uh, stop trying to control the material energy for our own sense gratification, but rather uh, surrender to Krishna and use everything in the service of Krishna. At that point, we are no longer disturbed by material or spiritual energy. They become the same because everything is used in the service of the Lord. That's why it says in this verse, Lord Shiva explains that the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always independent, but because the living entities are not independent, due to their false idea of becoming independently happy, the material energy is troublesome. Consequently, the material energy creates differentiation. Okay, as soon as people get engaged in sense gratification, that's where everything becomes contaminated. And all kinds of strange things happen at that point. But when everyone is engaged in devotional service, there is no longer this differentiation. Everyone understands that they are the eternal servants of the Lord. They're not trying to be the Lord. Okay, any questions? Okay, we'll go on to text 62. My dear Lords, Your universal form consists of all five elements: the senses, mind, intelligence, false ego, which is material, and the Paramatma, your partial expansion, who is the director of everything. Let me read that again. My dear Lord, your universal form, the Virat Rupa, consists of all five elements: the senses, the mind, intelligence, false ego, which is material, and the Paramatma, the super soul, your partial expansion, who is the director of everything. Yogis other than the devotees, namely the Karma Yogi and Jnana Yogi, worship you by their respective actions in their respective positions. It is stated both in the Vedas and in the Shastras that are corollaries of the Vedas. In other words, other types of Vedic literature, and indeed everywhere, that is only you who are to be worshipped. That is the expert version of all Vedas. Yeah, only Krishna should be worshipped. Doesn't matter whether it's in this part of the Vedic knowledge or in that part of the Vedic knowledge. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In a previous verse, Lord Shiva wanted to see the form of the Lord, which the devotees are always interested in. There are other forms of the Lord manifest in the material world, including Brahma and other demigods, and these are worshipped by materialistic persons. In the second canto, third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that those who desire material benefits are recommended to worship different types of demigods. And in conclusion, the Bhagavatam recommends Akama Sarvakamova Mokshakama Udaradi Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yachita Purusham Param. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. The devotees, the jnanis, who are known as Mokshakama, and the karmis. Okay, so there's three different uh, types of worshippers. The devotees, the jnanis, were known as moksha kama. In other words, they want liberation. And the karmis, who are known as sarvakama, they want to have sense gratification, are all aspiring to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Even when one performs yagyas, as stated here, kriya kalapai, he should always remember that the demigods are but agents of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the worshipful Lord is Vishnu, Yagyeshwara. Thus, even when different demigods are worshipped in the Vedic and Tantric sacrifices, the actual goal of sacrifice is Lord Vishnu. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 9.23, it is said, Yapi anya devata bhakta yajante shodayan vita. Tepi mam eva konteya yajanti avidi purvakam. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but is offered without true understanding. Thus, the worshippers of various demigods also worship the Supreme Lord. but they do so against the regulative principles. The purpose of the regulative principles is to satisfy Lord Vishnu. In the Vishnu Purana 3.8.9, the very same thing is confirmed. Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Parapamam Vishnur Aradyate Panta Nanyat Tattu Sakaranam. Here it is clearly mentioned that the karmi, jnani, or yogi, in fact, everyone worships Lord Vishnu if he is actually expert in knowledge of the Vedas and Tantras. The word Kovida is very significant, for it indicates the devotees of the Lord. Only the devotees know perfectly that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is all-pervading. Within the material energy, he is represented by the 5 material elements as well as the mind, intelligence, and ego. He is also represented by another energy, the living entities. And all these manifestations in the spiritual and material world combined are but representations of the different energies of the Lord. The conclusion is that the Lord is one and that he is expanded in everything. This is understood by the Vedic version, Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshiping Lord Vishnu. Now, this is beautiful statement, especially this Vedic version, Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma, basically, which means everything is Brahma. What does that mean? That everything is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is nothing independent of the Lord. But there are many different, you could say, manifestations of the Lord. But they are all of the same, let's say, purpose, to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshiping Lord Vishnu. Yeah, there's so many different energies in this world. That's why it says the conclusion is that the Lord is one and that he is expanded in everything. This is understood by the Vedic version, Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshiping Lord Vishnu. You don't have to take any tangents. You just engage in worshiping Lord Vishnu, and then all purposes are achieved or obtained. You don't have to do this thing and that thing and another thing. You simply have to worship Lord Vishnu with love and devotion, and then Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshiping Lord Vishnu. Because nothing is independent of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, in the spiritual and material world are but representations of the different energies of the Lord. The conclusion is that the Lord is one and that he is expanded in everything. This is understood by the Vedic version, Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshiping Lord Vishnu. Well, that's what Srila Prabhupada has taught us. We don't worship the demigods, we don't worship this thing or that thing, we only worship Lord Krishna. And because of our, let's say, regulated devotional service, we attain all perfection in spiritual life. without any confusion. But if we are not so clearly surrendered to the Lord, well, then there's always going to be problems. So, and this is a very profound statement. It says, only the devotees know perfectly that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is all pervading, meaning he's present in everything. Within the material energy, he is represented by the five material elements, as well as the mind, intelligence, and ego. He is also represented by another energy, the living entities. And all these manifestations in the spiritual and material world combined are but representations of the different energies of the Lord. The conclusion is that the Lord is one and that he is expanded in everything. This is understood by the Vedic version Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshiping Lord Krishna. Okay, so you don't have to worship any demigod, you don't have to worship anybody else. You just worship Lord Krishna or Krishna. Obviously, there are many different energies in this world and different types of, let's say, different types um, of expansions, but everything is coming from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, whether it's material energy or spiritual energy, these are all the energies of the Lord. And the living entities are also energies of the Lord. And all these manifestations in the spiritual material world combined are but representations of the different energies of the Lord. The conclusion is that the Lord is one and that he is expanded in everything. That is understood by the Vedic version Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshiping Lord Krishna. Yeah, you don't have to worship anything else. And then also this verse, Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Parapumam Vishnu Radyate Pamata Nanya Tattusa Karanam. Here it is clearly mentioned that the karmi, jnani, or yogi, in fact, everyone worships Lord Vishnu if he is actually expert in knowledge of the Vedas and Tantras. We understand what it means, Vedas. Tantras are extra scriptures. But the main point is that we worship Lord Krishna, therefore we achieve all perfection by worshiping Lord Vishnu. Okay, text 63. My dear Lord, you are the only supreme person, the cause of all causes. Before the creation of this material world, your material energy remains in a dormant condition. When your material energy is agitated, the three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, act. And as a result, the total material energy, egotism, ether, air, fire, water, earth, and all the various demigods and saintly persons become manifest. Thus, the material world is created.
This is Lord Shiva declaring, right?
What's that?
This is Lord Shiva
who's speaking. Yeah. If the whole creation is purport, if the whole creation is one, that is, nothing but the Supreme Lord or Vishnu. Then why do the expert transcendentalists make such categories as are found in the above verse? Why do learned and expert scholars distinguish between matter and spirit? In answer to these questions, Lord Shiva says that spirit and matter are not creations of various philosophers, but are manifested by Lord Vishnu, as described in this verse. Tvam eka adya purusha. Spiritual and material categories are made possible by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but actually, there are no such distinctions for the living entities who are eternally engaged in the service of the Lord. There is only a material world for those who want to imitate the Lord and become enjoyers. Indeed, the material world is nothing but forgetfulness of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the creator of everything. The distinction between matter and spirit is created by the sleeping energy of the Lord when the Lord wants to give some facility to those living entities who want to imitate the Lord in his enjoyment. It is only for them that this material world is created by the dormant energy of the Lord. For instance, sometimes children want to imitate their mother and cook in the kitchen. And at such a time, the mother supplies them with some toys so that the children can imitate her cooking. Similarly, when some of the living entities want to imitate the activities of the Lord, this material cosmic manifestation is created for them by the Lord. The material creation is therefore caused by the Lord through his material energy. It is by the glance of the Lord that the material energy is activated. Yeah, the Lord does not have to do anything to create the material energy. He simply glances and it's activated. At that time, the three material qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance, right, are set into motion, and the material energy is manifested first in the form of the Mahatattva, which is the sum total of all material energy, then egotism, then ether, then air, fire, water, and earth. After the creation of the living entities are after the creation, the living entities are impregnated in the cosmic manifestation, and they emerge as Lord Brahma and the seven great rishis, then as different demigods. From the demigods come human beings, animals, trees, birds, beasts, and everything else. The original cause, however, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as verified herein. Tvam Eka Adya Purusha. This is also confirmed in Brahma Samhita 5.1. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam. Those who are covered by the material energy cannot understand that the origin of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is summarized in the Vedanta aphorism, Janmadasya Yata, Vedanta Sutra 1.1.2. Krishna also confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10.8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhujante mam buddha bhavasamanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. When Krishna says that he is the origin of everything, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, He means that he is even the source of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the Purusha avatars, the material manifestation, and all the living entities within the material world. Actually, the word prabhava, creation, only refers to this material world, for since the spiritual world is eternally existing, there is no question of creation. In the Chatu Sloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord says, Aham evasam evagre. I was existing in the beginning before the creation. Bhagavatam 2.9.33. In the Vedas, it is also said, Eko Narayana Asit. Before the creation, there was only Narayana. This is also confirmed by Sankaracharya. Narayana Parovyaktat. Narayana is transcendental to creation. This is the Gita Bhashya. Since all the activities of Narayana are spiritual, when Narayana said, let there be creation, that creation was all spiritual. The material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. Wow, that's a wonderful statement. So we have to pay attention to the statements in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Uh, and the Brahma Samhita. In the Brahma Samhita, it says that Ishwara Paramakrishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Those who are covered by the material energy cannot understand that the origin of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is summarized in the Vedanta aphorism Janmadasya Yata, the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.2. Krishna also confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10.8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their heart. When Krishna said, excuse me, that he is the origin of everything, aham sarvasya prabhava, he means that he is even the source of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the Purusha avatars, the material manifestation, and all the living entities within the material world. Actually, the word prabhava, creation, only refers to the material world, for since the spiritual world is eternally existent, there is no question of creation. In the chapter Sloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord says, Aham eva sam evagre. The chapter Sloki are the four nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I was existing in the beginning before the creation, Bhagavatam 2.9.33. In the Vedas, it is also said, Eko Narayana Asit. Before the creation, there was only Narayana. This is also confirmed by Sankaracharya, Narayana Parovyaktat. Narayana is transcendental to the creation. Gita Bhashya. Since all the activities of Narayana are spiritual, when Narayana said, let there be creation, that creation was all spiritual. The material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. Well, This is the realization of a genuine devotee. And everything is coming from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, nothing is material. Materialism only exists due to forgetfulness of Krishna. But in reality, everything is Krishna's energies. That should be our, let's say, takeaway here. And that's why it says the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. There it is. Forgetfulness is the disease of the living entity. But when we are cognizant of that everything is coming from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there's no forgetfulness. And we are very, let's say, uh, very fixed up in Krishna consciousness. Okay, are there any questions? Are there any questions? These were wonderful, wonderful statements by Prabhupada in the purport. And to validate what is being said, Prabhupada quoted Ishvara Parama Krishna and then Aham Sarvasya Prabhava and the Chatur Sloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, Aham Evasam Evagre. All these are evidences that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is nothing independent of the Lord. But when there's forgetfulness, there seems to be things that are independent of the Lord, but it's only due to ignorance. So here it says, since all the activities of Narayana are spiritual, when Narayana said, let there be creation, that creation was all spiritual. The material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. There it is. There's no such thing as matter. Everything is spiritual, actually. But people become fooled by thinking things are material because they forget the relationship with Krishna. When you understand that Krishna is the source of everything, there's nothing that is material. Everything is actually spiritual. Haribol. Okay, text 64.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Mataji.
So even though this material energy and spiritual energy seems like coexist for the person who understands that Narayana is the ultimate, but even though you are a devotee, but when you are in this material world, you always still you go through all these miseries, right? Birth, death, old age, disease, and it still hurts. So how do you see, like only when you have material world and spiritual world is separated and you belong in the spiritual world, which is eternal, so it won't hurt. But like, when you are in the material world, is definitely temporary also. So how do you see this difference again?
Well, it only seems to hurt because we've forgotten Krishna. But if we remember Krishna, nothing really hurts. Now you might say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. You know, I'm hurting. So I mean, how can you say nothing really hurts? Well, because the let's say the hurt is due to forgetfulness of the Lord. When you're remembering Krishna, nothing hurts because you're always chanting and dancing and feasting, and you forget about mundane things in the world. Now, I've seen this myself in my own experience. One time I had a severe injury to my foot, but Prabhupada came, and I, went to see him with all the other devotees, of course. And then there was an ecstatic kirtan. And although my foot was injured seriously, I was jumping up and down on it.
Haribol.
I didn't feel any pain. After everything, okay, the pain came back. But I didn't feel any pain at all. I forgot completely about my pain because we were dancing in ecstasy in the presence of Srila Prabhupada. So the feeling of pain is a type of message. What is the message? That we're doing something wrong. But if we correct what we're doing wrong, the pain will go away. The pain is just a message that we are doing something wrong. That's why it says here, since all the activities of Narayana are spiritual, when Narayana said, let there be creation, that creation was all spiritual. The material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. So, if we are always Krishna conscious, engaging in devotional service, we're not disturbed by different states of the body or mind, or of the different states of the material world. We are always steady in the devotional service of the Lord. So we have tremendous amount of tolerance in that consciousness of Krishna. And that's why it says the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. So nothing is independent of Krishna. Nothing. So as long as we are Krishna conscious and haven't forgotten Krishna or Narayana, the material energy is not something that disturbs us. Yeah, someone might have pain, or someone might be hurt mentally because they have lost a lot of money or so forth. But if we are the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. So yeah, when somebody loses a lot of money on the in business and they want to commit suicide, well, that's because they completely forgot about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why commit suicide? Because you lost all your money. That's okay. You're still alive. You can, money comes and money goes, but you don't have to kill yourself because you lost all your money, right? That's all caused by ignorance. Money is, and therefore you realize that money is something illusory, right? You have, like, for example, whenever there's a devaluation of money due to bad, management. So at one point, a dollar could buy a lot of things. but because of bad management, the dollar can only buy half of what it used to buy. So then you realize this is all Maya. Rather, grow your own vegetables. Then you don't have to worry about uh, the stock market going up or down. So there was one farmer, and he was always, for like his whole life, uh, some uh, potatoes for pachas paisa, right? And then one day he he uh, he started charging $2 instead of 50 paisa. Right? Someone came and said, uh, why did you raise the price? He said, oh, because
The dollar level.
the uh, uh, what do you call that? Uh, the uh,
Exchange value.
exchange, yeah, the exchange went up. Now, for 50 years, he charged only pachas paisa, but then he learned about the exchange, and therefore now he raised the price. So you see, all these things are uh, really illusory. That's why here it says the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. Yeah, everything is actually spiritual and should only be used in the service of Krishna. It's only when we forget about Krishna that we begin to get illusioned by material things. The material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Don't worry about this stock market going up and down. You worry about chanting your rounds and having nice prasadam and preaching Krishna consciousness. That's what our real business is.
I remember Maharaj, once there was a birthday celebration and devotees sang, may you never take a birth again. And microphone was not near you, but you said, what's wrong what's wrong being in material world if you are in Krishna consciousness? So the details are in this purports are given, and you definitely, Guru Maharaj, you are in that consciousness. When you are in that consciousness, it doesn't matter anymore. But until we go there, we all go through all these illusory effects on us.
Yes. Actually, everything is spiritual. There's nothing is material. And that's why it says the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. That is our takeaway for today and for eternity. The material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. So if Narayana is the original cause, that means that Narayana is eternal. So that is that even material things that are so-called material, they can be used in the service of Krishna, and now they become eternal, just like you are using your body in the service of Krishna. Okay, the body is going to get old and eventually is going to die, but your soul is eternal. So therefore, who are you? Are you the body or the soul? when you identify with the body, then you understand that you have eternal existence. But if you are in ignorance and you think only that I am this body, then you have to worry about uh, dying and having having uh, getting uh, being buried somewhere, and have all kinds of different things to show that you used to exist. But actually, uh, that grave is not where you are. You are eternally existing. Uh, People only die who are in ignorance, but when you're spiritually elevated, you understand death does not touch you. Death is only uh, a a type of sleeping for a certain period of time.
Mm.
But the soul is eternal, so it doesn't stop existing. But it might go to sleep for some time. That's all. Now, someone might say, "Oh, that sounds good, but are you serious about that?" Well, yeah, we are serious about that. Death is only a temporary situation, just like going to sleep, because the soul is eternal. It can go to sleep for a certain period and then wake up again, and you have another body. But the soul is eternal. So you might have different bodies, just like when the baby is born, it has a small body, and then it grows, it becomes bigger and bigger. And therefore, in one person's life, one experiences different bodies, right? But that does not, uh, let's say, change the fact that there's one soul, and but in that one soul, there are different periods of bodies. Therefore, that's the proof I am not this body. Okay. Therefore, our takeaway is the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. That is our takeaway for today. Matter or material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. That means that if we use everything, if we learn how to use everything in Krishna's service, then there's nothing material. Everything is actually spiritual. So you go and buy a what do you call a lemon or some kind of food. Well, when it's offered to Krishna with love and devotion, it becomes spiritualized. So that is Krishna consciousness. We are purifying and making things spiritualized by offering first to Krishna, and then Krishna offers it back as his mercy. So that is the purification and uh, of everything in the life of a devotee. He never just eats food. He only eats Krishna prasadam, which is offered first to Krishna with love and devotion, and then offered back by the Lord as his prasadam. This is real life. So material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. Yeah, everything in this world is caused by Krishna or Narayana. And to remember Krishna, first we offer food to the Lord, and then the Lord gives us the prasad. And by taking the prasadam and eating it, we become Krishnized or purified. That should be our life's goal, to always be purified by Krishna Prasadam. Now you have a spiritual life and a spiritual body also. Okay, any questions, any comments?
I think this particular chapter clearly, there is a lot, always some people that we come across that are like Lord Shiva devotees, particularly some of the South Indian
What about
people.
them?
But they haven't read that Lord Shiva is directly worshipping Lord Vishnu or Krishna in this case, and he himself is stating directly the same things that Krishna has stated in Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
I don't know if there are other scriptures ever that will conflict with this, but here this is the direct proof. I haven't read Shiva Purana or other things, but why would there be
Well, in
any?
Shiva Purana, it says that Shiva is the supreme God.
Yeah. So, like, then the question becomes like, you know,
But that is true in the material world, but not in the spiritual world.
Hmm.
In different frames of reality, yeah, you can say that Shiva is the supreme personality of Godhead. But that is only in the material world.
So if your consciousness is in the material dimension only, then Shiva is the supreme Lord,
Yes.
right? If you,
Well, because you're lacking the full knowledge. But you do make spiritual advancement by worshiping Lord Shiva.
Mhm.
Well, it depends on how you worship Lord Shiva. If you worship Lord Shiva to kill him and take over his wife, that is completely nonsense, right? But if you worship Lord Shiva as a devotee, and it's not to have material benefits, but to be blessed by Lord Shiva so that you can always be the servant of Krishna. Well, that's different. So that type of worship, Lord Shiva, is bona fide. You're worshiping Lord Shiva in order to get Krishna as your eternal, let's say, savior. It's not that, worshiping Lord Shiva in order to become a pure devotee of Krishna. That is okay. That's fine. And Shiva will help you that way. But if you worship Lord Shiva so that you can murder someone or so that you can have sense gratification, oh, now that's different. Lord Shiva might help you, but you're just going to go deeper into material involvement in the material world. So the best thing is to understand the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause of everything. So if we understand that Narayana is the cause of everything, then there's no such thing as material. Everything is spiritual. Mm. The material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. A lot of people have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause, even Hindus, but not devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Mahamantra ki jai. So now we're going to remember Krishna today by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare. You see, things can become very complicated when you don't have faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then things become very complicated. But if you understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you just chant Hare Krishna and take prasadam and be engaged in devotional service. Then everything is pretty simple and straightforward. You don't have to, it's not complicated. Yeah, one time this man, he was not a devotee. He uh, began to talk to me. He's just a Hindu, and he said, "That's pretty nice what you're doing." He watched me do some, uh, saying some mantras and things. And he said, "That's pretty good what you did." He said, "But it's not bona fide." I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "Well, first you have to do this, then you have to do that, then you have to also do this." And he gave me a whole list of things that I have to do so that my worship is bona fide. And I tell him, look, that's not what my guru told me. My guru told me just chant Hare Krishna and follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. You see how people want to make everything complicated, But Prabhupada made everything direct. And even the most worst person can become the best person by following Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Always chanting Hare Krishna, eating only prasadam, and always being meek and humble in the execution of devotional service. That's the formula for being happy in this world. And it's not complicated, and everyone can do it if they want to. Otherwise, you have to do this, you have to do that. They give you so many things that you have to do. And not everyone can do those things, right? So then you have a small number of people that can do all the things that are supposed to be done. And most people just give up. Right? But in Krishna consciousness, everyone can make spiritual advancement. Why? Because it's very simple. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, you just chant Hare Krishna every day and follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, and have nice prasadam. So everybody can do that. So no one is excluded. This exclusiveness is Maya. Everybody can be a devotee if they follow the instructions of bona fide devotees. Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. That is our philosophy. Pretty simple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So our takeaway is the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. There it is. That's our takeaway today. Everything actually is spiritual. It's only when you forget that Narayana or Krishna is the cause of everything, that we see things as being material. Haribol. Yeah, if you see everything as being the mercy of Lord Krishna, and everything is actually spiritual when used in the service of the Lord, then life becomes very simple. But if you see all these different categories and different types of mantras and tantras and so forth, life becomes very complicated. But for a devotee, the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayana is the original cause. Therefore, you treat everything as being spiritual and belonging to Krishna. So therefore, we use everything in the service of Krishna. Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, just one quick question. Uh,
Yes.
so we have a lot of devotees who do a lot of seva and they are not, um, I wouldn't say not interested, but they do not want to take initiation or go that route. They just want to do pure seva. That is also one process of devotion. So that also can take devotees to Goloka, right? Like,
Well, uh, we always have to follow the acharyas. Prabhupada took initiation, right? So whatever Prabhupada did, as an example, we should do also. Prabhupada took initiation, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took initiation, etc. So we should follow the example of bona fide devotees. We should not invent our own speculations. Does that answer your question?
yes, Maharaj, very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Any other question, devotees?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
No more questions, man.